Andrew Williamson here. Welcome back to Williamson Education. Well, it's something of an important day here on the Spread the Word campaign. With today's lesson on adverbs and interjections, we complete our work on the fundamental parts of speech in the English language. By now, you should be well versed in nouns and verbs, pronouns and prepositions, and so on. This lesson on adverbs and interjections rounds out our discussion on the parts of speech, so that we can move on in later lessons to more philosophical topics around sentence construction. Without further ado, let's dive in. You'll probably recall from our earliest lesson on adverbs that adverbs are modifying words. Specifically, adverbs are modifying words that add information to verbs. Adverbs tell an audience how, when, or in what manner a particular action takes place. For example, consider this simple sentence. The boy threw the ball hard. In this example, the word hard serves to tell us in what manner the boy threw the ball, hard. Or consider this second example. The woman coughed loudly in the waiting area. The word loudly serves to tell us how the woman coughed, loudly. As the second example might remind you, words that end with the suffix ly are usually adverbs. That's a handy tool for being able to identify adverbs in most cases. If you see a word ending in ly, chances are that it is an adverb. Be careful though, not all words that end with this suffix are adverbs. Think about the word friendly, for example. It modifies nouns, so it's an adjective. I've said here that most but not all words ending in ly are adverbs. Likewise, many but not all adverbs end in ly. Think about that word hard that I used in my first example sentence. It's an adverb that does not end in ly. So you can see, this rule about ly endings on adverbs is a pretty loose rule. Unlike adjectives, which modify only nouns, adverbs are pretty flexible in what types of things they can modify. In addition to modifying verbs, adverbs can also modify adjectives and even other adverbs. Think about my first example sentence, the boy threw the ball hard. I'm just going to add one more adverb into the sentence to tell you how hard the boy threw the ball. Here it is. The boy threw the ball really hard. See that? An adverb modifying another adverb. Or imagine my second example sentence once more. Imagine that I wanted to tell you how loudly the woman in the waiting room coughed. I could tell you, the woman coughed very loudly in the waiting area. In this case, very is an adverb modifying another adverb, telling us how much or to what degree the woman was coughing. As you can see, adverbs are a dynamic part of speech that can operate well in a range of contexts. I personally find adverbs a bit harder to identify than adjectives, and the reason is that adverbs often sit farther away from the words they modify than adjectives do. Adjectives, as we have learned, typically pre-modify nouns. Even if there is a list of adjectives, it is easy enough to see that the entire list of adjectives is modifying the nearest noun that comes after the list. With adverbs, however, the placement of the modifier is often more flexible. For instance, in my second example sentence, it would be acceptable to say either the woman coughed loudly or the woman loudly coughed. In other words, both pre-modification and post-modification are allowed in this instance. This is not always the case though. In the first example sentence, I could not say, the boy hard threw the ball. That is a non-grammatical sentence. I must say, the boy threw the ball hard. So sometimes adverbs are fluid in their placement, and sometimes they are fixed. How to tell when they are fluid and when they are fixed? To tell you the honest truth, I wish I knew that myself. You'll train your intuition over time as you immerse yourself in native English-speaking environments. Well, with that as an endpoint on adverbs, let's move on to our final part of speech, the interjection. Interjections are essentially short words, phrases, or even just sounds that English speakers make in order to express an emotion, often a strong emotion. For example, let's say we had just gone on a hike together, and it was a rather dangerous one. Once we make it back to camp, I might say, "Phew, I did not know if we would make it." In this case, the interjection phew or phew indicates a sense of relief at having survived a challenging encounter. Let's look at another example of an interjection. Here it is. Oh no, I forgot my phone in the car. Here the interjection, oh no, serves to express a sense of regret at a particular misfortune, leaving the phone in the car. And these are not the only interjections in English, far from it. For instance, the interjection oops expresses a sense of regret at having made a mistake. The interjection hooray expresses a sense of joy at a particular good result. And the interjection huh expresses a sense of confusion at a particular source of uncertainty. These two are just the tip of the iceberg in the world of interjections. It's true that interjections express a range of different emotions, but I find that there's one emotion that arises more often than others in interjections. that emotion is surprise. Let's say it was Halloween and you wanted to give your friend a jolt. You would interject with, boo. Let's say it was early on a Monday morning and you saw a comet flying through the sky. You might say, whoa. Or let's say you just suddenly won the lottery. You might say, gosh. All of these words revolve around the same idea, surprise. Previously, I mentioned the idea that certain languages have many words for different kinds of snowflakes. In English, we have many interjections expressing various kinds of surprise. Now that you know what to look for, you'll hear native English speakers using interjections constantly to express the fact that they had not expected a certain event to occur. Get used to using interjections to make your English sound even more native. I said at the beginning of the lesson that today's class marked an important milestone in the lessons that we've undertaken here together. As the 24th class in the Spread the Word campaign, today's lesson brings us to the end of another 4-lesson unit in the course. Now that you've completed this class, you have developed a foundation in all 9 of the parts of speech in the English language. For the most part, we've taken a functional approach to the parts of speech, not speaking about them in the abstract, but discussing them in the context in which they might appear in sentences. My hope is not so much that you learn the words adjective, verb, and noun per se, although learning these words will probably be necessary for your language skills. Instead, my focus is on those language skills themselves, so that we learn these technical terms with the objective constantly in mind of improving your speaking, writing, reading, and listening in English. The Spread the Word campaign has 52 lessons, so we're nearing the midpoint of our journey. As we head toward the middle of our course, it's about time to begin shifting gears a bit. We have laid the fundamental groundwork in language terminology and skills. At this stage, we can begin advancing into more complex topics of sentence structure, punctuation, and the like. In the remaining courses of the class, we'll together take a journey through such topics as how to distinguish between the words who and whom, how to tell the difference between the words much and many, and how to use the conditional mood in verbs. Mastering these topics will take your English into a realm that even many native speakers of the language have not yet reached. As for the next unit, I conceptualize the next 4 lessons as a kind of troubleshooting manual for users of the English language. Troubleshooting means fixing problems that arise. The next set of classes will deal with topics that pertain to problems that commonly arise in sentences spoken or written by English language practitioners. Once again, even native speakers of the language make many of the errors I'm going to describe. So first of all, do not feel bad if you have realized that you have been making some of these errors. They're very common. Next, please realize that we have now done enough that we can take your English into a territory occupied by relatively few users of the language, a place of absolute mastery. I don't want to say that your English will be perfect, of course, because I don't know anyone who speaks perfect English, myself included. As we enter into the realm of common errors in English speaking, I would like to remind you of one thing. Not only do I myself not speak perfect English, but there's probably no such thing as perfect English in the first place. Speaking native-sounding English relies somewhat paradoxically on knowing which rules to bend, break, and outright ignore. With that, we come to the end of another unit, and I say to you, bravo and brava. Spread the word.